everyone, and welcome to YCamp. My name's Emily, and I'm here at YMCA Camp Chief Hector, which is located in the Canadian Rockies of Alberta. Here at Camp Chief Hector, we acknowledge that we are the current and happy caretakers of the land of which camp sits, and that land is located on Treaty 7. We also gratefully acknowledge the relationships and the history of the Stoney Nakoda First Nations and the Blackfoot Nation and everyone else that makes their home here in Treaty 7 of Southern Alberta. Today, we are going to be learning about the 7 R's of sustainability, all the while reading the Lorax. And throughout the Lorax, we're going to be thinking about how the Onceler and the Lorax could possibly be a bit more sustainable, or maybe they are already sustainable enough, and then take some of those ideas and try them out in our own homes. Awesome, let's go read the Lorax.
I realized before we left to come inside, I didn't tell you my riddle. So, here it is. I am something people like to climb, but I am not a tree with branches. I have snow at my summit, so beware of avalanches. You can pause it and think about it for a second. I'll give you a hint. You saw it as I gave my introduction. Did you say mountain? Awesome, you're correct. Great. So let's talk about the 7 R's of sustainability. Now, I think people normally are aware of maybe 3 of them, but there's a couple more that help make it a nice round 7. So first of all, it's recycle. Second, you want to reuse. Third, you want to reduce. Fourth, repurpose. Fifth, refuse. 6, repair. And 7, rethink. Now, with those 7 R's to sustainability, we are going to make a little chart. Now, on my chart, I wrote the 7 R's at the top of my paper, and then along the side, I wrote the Lorax, and then I wrote my home or our home. You can do the same, or you can just jot down some notes when you think you hear one of the types of sustainability as we read the Lorax. And while we're reading, say you don't hear any, or you think, hey, the Lorax or the Onceler really could have reduced by doing this. Then make that a note too, because we want to think of ways that we can help the Lorax and the Onceler, and then we'll go from there. We can leave the our home blank until the end, and we can get in the mind frame of thinking ways that we can be more sustainable in our own home. Great. So now we're going to read the Lorax. And I want to point out, first of all, that this is a type of sustainability. Our number 1, actually recycle, because this Lorax was printed on recycled paper. So that means that no new trees were harmed or cut down in order to make this. They took paper that had already been used and printed the story on it. So that's great. Awesome. So the Lorax by Dr. Seuss. At the far end of town where the grickle grass grows, and the wind smells slow and sour when it blows, and no birds ever sing except old crows, in the street of the lifted Lorax. And deep in the grickle grass, some people say, if you look deep enough, you will see today where the Lorax once stood just as long as it could before somebody lifted the Lorax away. What was the Lorax, and why was it there? And why was it lifted and taken somewhere? From the far end of town where the grickle grass grows, the old Onceler still lives there. Ask him. He knows. You won't see the Onceler. Don't knock at his door. He stays in his lurkin on top of his store. He lurks in his lurkum, cold under the roof, where he makes his own clothes out of muffled moof. And on special dank midnight, in August, he peeks out of the shutters, and sometimes he speaks, and tells how the Lorax was lifted away. He'll tell you, perhaps, if you're willing to pay. Now here's one note we can write, that he makes his own clothes out of muffled moof. I don't know what muffled moof is, but I'm sure it's a way of repurposing or reusing something else to make clothes. So that can be your first jot down. On the end of a rope, he lets down a tin pail, and you have to toss in 15 cents and a nail, and the shell of a great-great-great-grandfather snail. Then he pulls up the pail, makes a most careful count to see if you've paid him the proper amount. Then he hides what you've paid him away in his snub, his secret strange hole in his grovelous glove. Then he grunts, I will call you by whispermaphone, for the secrets I tell are for your ears alone. Slup. Down slups the whispermaphone to your ear, and the old onceler whispers are not very clear, since they have to come down through a snargly hose, and he sounds as if he has smallish bees up his nose. Now I'll tell you, he says, with his teeth something gray, how the Lorax got lifted and taken away. It all started way back, such a long, long way back. Way back in the days when the grass was still green, and the pond was still wet, and the clouds were still clean, and the song of the swami swans rang out in space, one morning I came to this glorious place, and I first saw the trees, the truffula trees, the bright-colored tufts of the truffula trees, mile after mile in the fresh morning breeze. And under the trees I saw brown barbaloots frisking about in their barbaloot suits, as they played in the shade and ate truffula fruits. From the rippleless pond came the comfortable sound of the humming fish humming while splashing around. But those truffula trees, all my life I'd been searching for trees such as these. The touch of their tufts was much softer than silk, and they had the sweet smell of fresh butterfly milk. I felt a great leaping of joy in my heart. I knew just what I'd do. I unloaded my cart. In no time at all, I had built a small shop. Then I chopped down a truffula tree with one chop, and with great skillful skill and with great speedy speed, I took the soft tuft and I knitted a thneed. The instant I'd finished, I heard a gazump. I looked. I saw something pop out of the stump of the tree that I'd chopped down. It was sort of a man. Describe him, that's hard. I don't know if I can. He was shortish and oldish and brownish and mossy, and he spoke with a voice that was sharpish and bossy. Mister, he said, with a sawdusty sneeze, I am the Lorax. I speak for the trees. I speak for the trees have no tongues, and I'm asking you, sir, at the top of my lungs. He was very upset as he shouted and puffed, What's that thing you're making out of my truffula tuft? Look, I said, there's no cause for alarm. I chopped just one tree, I am doing no harm. I'm being quite useful. This thing is a thneed. A thneed's a fine something that all people need. It's a shirt, it's a sock, it's a glove, it's a hat. But it has other uses, yes, far beyond that. You can use it for carpets, for pillows, for sheets, or curtains, or covers, or bicycle seats. The Lorax said, Sir, you are crazy with greed. There is no one on earth who would buy that fool thneed. Here's another thing that you can note down. The fact that the thneed can be used for so many things. Like he said, it's a sock, it's a glove, it's a hat, it's a carpet, it's a pillow. You can use it for sheets. That's an example of reusing or repurposing or even reducing, because when you only have one thing, you don't need to buy all those other things. Apparently the thneed can do it all. But the very next minute, I proved he was wrong. For just at that minute, a chap came along, and he thought that the thneed I had knitted was great. He happily bought it for $3.98. I laughed at the Lorax, you poor stupid guy. You never can tell what some people will buy. I repeat, cried the Lorax, I speak for the trees. I'm busy, I told him. Shut up, if you please. I rushed across the room and in no time at all, built a radio phone. I put in a quick call. I called on my brothers and uncles and aunts, and I said, listen here, here's a wonderful chance for the whole Onceler family to get mighty rich. Get over here fast, take the road to North Nitch. Turn left at Weehawken, sharp right at South Stitch. And in no time at all, in the factory I built, the whole Onceler family was working full tilt. We were all knitting thneeds, just as busy as bees, to the sound of the chopping of truffula trees. Then, oh baby, oh, how my business did grow. Now chopping one tree at a time was too slow. So I quickly invented my super axe hacker, which whacked off 4 truffula trees at one smacker. We were making thneeds 4 times as fast as before, and that Lorax, he didn't show up anymore. Now maybe the Onceler needs to think about or rethink about how many thneeds people really need. But the next week he knocked on my new office door. He snapped, "I'm the Lorax who speaks for the trees, which you seem to be chopping as fast as you please. But I'm also in charge of the brown barbaloots, who played in the shade in their barbaloot suits and happily lived eating truffula fruits. Now, thanks to your hacking my trees to the ground, there's not enough truffula fruit to go round, and my poor barbaloots are all getting the crummies because they have gas and no food in their tummies. They loved living here, but I cannot let them stay. They'll have to find food, and I hope that they may. Good luck, boys," he cried, and he sent them away. I, the Onceler, felt sad as I watched them all go, but business is business, and businesses must grow, regardless of crummies and tummies, you know. I meant no harm, I most truly did not, but I had to grow bigger, so bigger I got. I biggered my factory, I biggered my roads, I biggered my wagons, I biggered the loads of the thneeds I shipped out. I was shipping them forth, to the south, to the east, to the west, to the north. I went right on biggering, selling more thneeds, and I biggered my money, which everyone needs. Then again he came back. I was fixing some pipes when that old nuisance Lorax came back with more gripes. "I am the Lorax," he coughed and he whiffed. He sneezed and he snuffled, he snargled, he sniffed. "Onceler," he cried with a cruffulous croak. "Onceler, you're making such smogulous smoke. My poor swami swans, why, they can't sing a note. No one can sing who has smog in their throats." "And so," said the Lorax, "please pardon my cough. They cannot live here, so I'm sending them off. Where will they go? I don't hopefully know. They may have to fly for a month or a year to escape from the smog you've smogged up around here." "What's more," snapped the Lorax, his dander was up, "let me say a few words about the gluppity-glup. Your machinery chugs on day and night without stop, making gluppity-glup, also schluppity-schlupp. And what do you do with the leftover goo? I'll show you, you dirty old Onceler man, you." Doesn't look like they're reducing anything with that. "You're glumping the pond where the hummingfish hummed. No more can they hum, for their gills are all gummed. So I'm sending them off. Oh, their future is dreary. They'll walk on their fins and get woefully weary in search of some water that isn't so smeary." And then I got mad. I got terribly mad. I yelled at the Lorax, "Now listen here, Dad. All you do is yap yap and say bad, 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 bad. Well, I have my rights, sir, and I'm telling you, I tend to go on doing just what I do. And for your information, you Lorax, I'm figuring on biggering and biggering and biggering and biggering. Turning more truffula trees into thneeds, which everyone needs." And at that very moment, we heard a loud whack. From outside in the fields came a sickening smack of an axe on a tree. Then we heard the tree fall, the very last truffula tree of them all. No more trees, no more thneeds, no more work to be done. So in no time, my uncle and aunts, everyone, all waved me goodbye. They jumped into my cars and drove away under the smoke-smuggered stars. Now all that was left neath the bad-smelling sky was my big empty factory, the Lorax, and I. The Lorax said nothing, just gave me a glance, just gave me a very sad backwards glance, as he lifted himself by the seat of his pants. And I'll never forget the grim look on his face when he hoisted himself and took leave of this place through a hole in the smog without leaving a trace. And all that Lorax left here in this mess was a small pile of rocks with one word, unless. Whatever that meant, well, I just couldn't guess. That was long ago, but each day since that day, I've sat here and worried away. Though the years, while my buildings have fallen apart, I've worried about it with all of my heart. But now, said the Onceler, now that you're here, the word of the Lorax seems perfectly clear. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. So, catch, calls the Onceler. He lets something fall. It's a truffula seed. It's the last one of all. You're in charge of the last of the truffula seeds, and truffula trees are what everyone needs. Plant a new truffula, treat it with care, give it clean water, feed it fresh air. Grow a forest, protect it from axes that hack. Then the Lorax and all of his friends may come back. The end. Awesome. So, hopefully in your charts, under the Lorax, you were able to find some ways that the Onceler was sustainable or that the Lorax was sustainable, or maybe you thought of ways that they could be more sustainable. On my chart, I filled out a couple earlier, and maybe we'll take this time, just a few seconds for you to finish filling out any last thoughts, and then we can talk about a few of them. So, for example, the Onceler, I don't think he recycled a lot. So what can he do to recycle? Maybe he can use his local blue bins. Reuse, something that we talked about during the story was maybe he could reuse those old thneeds to make something else, or as he said, because the thneed can be so many different things, you're reusing it for more than just a sweater. It's a sock, it's a carpet, it's a pillow. Reducing, we talked about that too. Maybe you thought of some other ways that the Onceler could reduce or had reduced in the story. Just the fact that the thneed can be 10 things in one. You're reducing the fact that you have to buy those 10 separate things. You can just have one thing. Repurpose, something that I thought about is he has all those old factories that kind of just went to the wayside after all the truffula trees were gone, or those factories that weren't being used anymore. What could he use them for, and what could you repurpose them to do? Refuse. They talk about refusing more in like single-use plastics, but the Onceler creates a lot of pollution. So how can he refuse making that pollution, or creating an assembly that doesn't use that gluppity-glup that gums up the humming fish's gills? Repair, encouraging people to repair the thneed instead of just throwing out and buying a new one. If there's a hole, maybe they can take it back and he can knit it to fix it. And then rethinking is, how is this product sustainable? And then rethinking, maybe do you even need all these thneeds? I know he said that a thneed is something that everyone needs, but just rethinking that, and then rethinking maybe how does he make it more sustainable? How can he should have planted some truffula trees. He should have cleaned up the lakes. Just having that in the back of your head. Awesome. So now, under the section that says our home, we can take some time to think about ways that we can be sustainable in our own home. And some ones that I thought of is reducing. I like bringing my cloth bags to the grocery store instead of taking a plastic bag. Refusing. I like to refuse single-use plastic. So as an adult, I bring my reusable coffee mug, but you, as a camper, you've got your water bottle that you take around in your backpack, making sure you keep that close so you don't have to buy bottled water, and encouraging your parents to use their reusable coffee mugs, something that you're refusing that single-use plastic. Repairing, I like repairing my clothes, so I'll use a patch if I get a hole in my jeans instead of just getting rid of the jeans altogether. And then lastly, rethinking. As the Lorax and the Onceler said, that it's unless someone like you cares a whole lot. And it doesn't have to be big things. It can just be little things, like remembering those cloth bags, like using your reusable water bottle, like remembering to use your recycling bins or your compost, something that is small that you can do every day, and having those conversations with your parents, with your friends. How can you make your home, your camp, maybe at your school, just a little bit more sustainable? So if you would like to work towards getting your virtual certificate, make sure that you go to ymcahome.ca/YCamp, and you can tell us how you did with this activity, and maybe it's uploading a photo, filling out a little bit of information of some of your thoughts about the 7 R's of sustainability. And if you're enjoying these videos, make sure you give us a like and follow along online and subscribe, and please consider making a small donation to your local YMCA summer camp. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you have a great day. Take care.